Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I trust that you are feeling as well as you can be right now, and even if you're not feeling like that's true for you, that's okay. And I hope you find peace and relaxation here. We are starting off our Sangha today with some Shravana. I will be listening along with you as we read from our book in a few moments, but not before we welcome our first guests who are arriving now. Like dear Sky Guardian, Namaste, and dear Rachel, hello. Hello dear Probably, and Zesty, welcome Daisy, and hello Meat Popsicle, Charlie, and everyone else with creative usernames. Welcome dear Dagger. And I hope you are all feeling as well as you can be in this moment. No matter what you're going through, whatever your circumstances may be, how you are feeling is always valid. Hello dear Arcane and Carolina. Good evening, Paige. I am well. Your book came? Oh, how exciting that is. Thank you for sharing the live too. And welcome Tatwamasi and Amir. And thank you, Dagger, for the rose you have blessed our Sangha off with today. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, thank you, dear Arcane. All the sweetness in me, may it be a mirror to all the sweetness in you. And Tatwamasi, thank you for your quintet of roses too. Jaya Sita Ram. Hello dear Charlie, and thank you for your hat and mustache. I'm already wearing a hat, and I already got a mustache. Jaya Sajit Anandam. That's funny, Sky Guardian. Thank you, Waterwind, for being here and for your likes. They're never expected, but I do know that they help push the space to a wider audience, and if you feel like there's something here that can benefit others, that makes me happy. Good evening, dear Sarah. Hello, Dante and Reese. Thank you for being here. Dear Charlie, you asked if I've read any good books yesterday. Or recently, not just yesterday. Yes, indeed. And if my mouse is working, indeed it is. I would love to read the book that I have planned with all of you. Not in its entirety, of course, but just the next little bit. I think there's a little bit in this book for everyone, and that'll be the start of our Sangha, and we can dive into Q&A afterwards. Thank you, dear Rachel. Waterwind, you're wondering when I go live. I try to go live every day, unless there's health or family reasons that take priority. And I've been trying for around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Hello, dear Talon. Welcome, dear Panas. Or Panaswav. Thank you, Babblefishy, for your trio of roses too. Radhe, Radhe. Okay, where did we leave off in this book? May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. So, the mother and father of the universe has incarnated on Earth, and she has forgotten her true identity. They are about to get a hotel room. And that's where we left off. So let's see what happens. The suite comprised a living dining room, a powder room, a bedroom, and bath. In the bedroom, a mattress, covered with a multicolored batik bedspread, lay centered on a cool, decorative tile floor. Scattered around on low tables were scented candles and bowls of oil. Soft, pleasant New Age music issued from an invisible source. Expanses of glass overlooked lawns and flower gardens, and in the distance were snow-capped mountains. The bathroom, if it could be called that, was a series of rooms open to each other. One with a bath almost the size of a swimming pool, and another with a shower designed, as I soon discovered, to mimic a rainforest. The toiletries, toothbrush, hairbrushes, fragrant soaps and creams were of a luxury brand I could not afford. I showered and slipped on a cotton pajama and top. Sid did the same. We seemed acolytes of a cult. I placed cushions at the head and foot of the mattress and motioned him to sit at one end. I sat cross-legged at the other. All right, we're getting spicy, but let me just have a quick look, see if this is anything too spicy. No. Okay. Do you have a condom? I asked, all business. No, he said, but I could. No need, I said. We won't get that far. I closed my eyes. Close your eyes, partially, I instructed him, as Miss Nandi, my Sanskrit teacher, had instructed me. Breathe in, hold, then out. Breathe deeply into the chest and imagine the sound hum. Breathe out and imagine the sound sa. Hum sa. Shiva and Shakti. Divine consciousness and nature. Deeply, in and out, 10 times, keep count. Then 3 counts in, hold for 3 counts, and breathe out for 3 counts. Watch the gap between 2 breaths. He complied. The present is not located in time, I said. Time is past or future. Truth lies in the present. My mind stops in the present. The present has no movement. I am here now. With my breath, I transcend space and time. When breath is in, stop, and when out, stop. In the gap between in and out breaths, the small me is absent. I watch the space between 2 breaths, the turning point between 2 breaths. I stood abruptly, tugged at my pajama string, and exposed the dull red gash that cut across my belly. Does it hurt? He asked. There's always a pain, like a low hum. I'm never far from it, but I'm used to it. It's an old friend that I can depend on, a friend who keeps me company. At times the pain becomes acute, but short-lived. Enter your pain. Penetrate it, I heard him say. I touched my scar gently, then dug my nail into it. I gasped at the familiar stab that shot through my body. I collapsed onto the mattress. Pinpoint the pain. Bring it to its source, he said. Use the point of intense pain. Observe it. You are not the pain. You observe the pain. Expand the space between you and the pain. Expand the space between your body and you. You are not this body. I fell into a hazy sleep. When I opened my eyes, he was seated on a chair, watching me, watching over me. I turned over on my stomach. Then the doorbell chimed. "Dinner," I said. "I've ordered the Ayurvedic special." A boy in a turban wheeled in an elaborately carved wooden trolley. He smartly spread a damask tablecloth on the dining table and laid out silverware, damask napkins, and 2 large dinner plates encrusted with a wide green and gold border. From a cut glass decanter, he poured a green-yellow liquid into 2 tall glasses. We seated ourselves. With a flourish, the boy uncovered 2 dishes and served portions on each plate. "What's this?" I asked, horrified. The boy stood to attention and recited, "Tapioca plus yellow mung dal and boiled vegetables, madame." "Usually fed to children and people recovering from an illness," Sid added, unhelpfully. "Very good for stomach business," the boy offered boldly, then withdrew, backing his way out. I took a sip of the lukewarm drink. It tasted of cobwebs. We were across from each other, naked, in the cool water of the pool bathtub. We were both tall, but our feet barely touched. I floated across and he lifted me onto his lap. And there is a little bit of a sex scene. So if this is something that might be uncomfortable for you, it's not detailed. This book isn't about that. Then do ensure that you come back at a more appropriate time. Alright, ready? It's only a few sentences. He lifted me onto his lap and entered me. He touched my chest lightly. My breasts were the best part of me. Round, full, but not voluptuous. He stroked my arm. "Are you aware of your skin?" he asked. "Your skin sets you apart, protects you. Your skin feels all, drops of water, heat, cold." He ran his hand along my calf and through my wet hair. I traced a finger along his lips, his nose, circled his eyes, cheekbones, forehead. He is not handsome. I would tell Pepe, but he is beautiful. He gently drew my head to him, then I am going to skip over some sentences. "Siddhanta," I whispered. "Give me a nice name." "Lalita," he suggested. "Too many syllables. I'd like 2 syllables and 4 letters maximum." "Sita," he said. "Another unfortunate woman like me. I'm on a positive path. Something peppy, snappy, happy." "Uma." 2 syllables, 3 letters. "Uma. Yes. Perfect." He shuddered. "Stay with me," I said. "Enter this tremor, this shaking." "You don't remember when we first met," I murmured. "New Year's Eve in New York City. We danced, you and I." "I remember," he said. "Come, I'll show you how it's done." I sprang out of the bathtub. In the bedroom, I punched a few buttons on a console, and soon we were pressed against each other, swaying hypnotically to the strains of the blue Danube waltz, naked, dripping wet, and laughing. "From quarks to galaxies, everything is dance," he said. We went in search of peacocks. We did not find any. But after navigating through a geometrical maze of clipped hedges, we came upon 2 croquet courts, stunningly green in the early morning light and superbly flat, an engineering feat in this mountainous terrain. A group of men and women in sparkling whites with mallets and balls were in play. "And who says the sun has set on the Raj?" I said. "Croquet players, not peacocks. Maya, material existence, an appearance in Brahman, universal consciousness, confounds us, never letting us in on what is going on. Maya, cosmic subterfuge, changeable, unreliable, contradictory, magnificent. Maya has no beginning. When did my ignorance of the Chinese language begin? At birth? Maya has no beginning, but loosens control when I awaken to my true self." Our limbs were intertwined. He was in me. He ran his fingers around various parts of my body. I had no thought, alert only to my full nature of various parts of my body. The vibrations began, and I faced him. "I want to," he whispered. "It's not time yet," I said. "Not yet time for what?" he asked. "For us. I'm not ready," I said. He kissed me on the mouth, deep and long. I let go and lay back. He moved on top of me. Then I was on top of him, touching but not yielding. "Will I see you again?" I asked. "How could you not?" he said. "Why me?" I persisted. "There is only you," he replied. On our way to the Dehradun airport, Jatayu informed me that the father of the boys, Damu and Ramu, had been offered a job in Rishikesh and would be returning to be with his family. "How did that happen?" I asked. "Did Sid—" "God's grace, madame," Jatayu said. "God's grace only." An exhilarating buoyancy took over me on the flight home. The funds from Gerhard had been deposited into my bank account. The videos of Jonas had been sent to his father. I did not keep a copy. I had no qualms about my silence regarding vile Jonas's obsession, because I knew that the punishment his father would inflict on him would be greater than any sentence the courts might pass. Jonas would be severely punished, not for his criminality, but for endangering the company's good name. Cocooned by the hum of the aircraft, I steadied my breathing. Hum-sa, which became so hum. I am that. The question of what am I doing now was at the forefront, and regret of what might have been, or eagerness for what could be, was relegated to respectable distance. I had focus, I had the tools of meditation, I had the weapon of prayer, and I was deeply in love with Sid, with the cosmos, with the thimbleful of coffee I'd been served, with the screaming 3-year-old who threw up on me. When Pepe and the girls were squared away, I resolved I would embark on my spiritual practice, my austerities, to become worthy of Sid, to become Ulma. I longed to embed the teachings of the Gita into that cave of my heart. My goal was not moksha, freedom from my own suffering. My goal was to alleviate the suffering of those around me, to give the girls a chance for a decent life, and to give Pepe a future. With my seat upright, I meditated, breathing in and out, observing my breath. In and out, observing the gap between two breaths. Meditation is non-thinking. Meditation is play with no end. Desires live in the promise of future expectations. Fire cannot be quenched by pouring oil over it. When a desire arises, scrutinize it until it disappears. The tiny flame within me expands to envelop the cosmos. There is no cosmos, no me. When we are together, Pepe, the girls and I, when we take our place on the shining orb, we will study together. I will tell them stories that point the way. We will dance. We are complete. No one can harm us. No one can hurt us. I will say to them, what were their names? Renuka, the oldest, then Ratna, and wasn't the littlest one Radha with an aspirated dha? That is the end of this chapter. But there is another section to read. The layer of the story that takes place at the level of the divine. The gods were convened on Mount Kailash. The agenda for the meeting had one item: the utter failure of their combined efforts in making her remember. She appears to have gotten the better of you, Hari addressed Sid. Perhaps she's gaining her strength, Miss Nandi ventured. Normally, Miss Nandi did not speak at such proceedings, but her current status as teacher made her bold. You did exert your considerable charms, Hari continued, after a slight nod acknowledging Miss Nandi. Sid took a sardonic tone. Apparently not enough of them, and, anyway, she considers Nandi here her teacher, in spite of all my efforts. Did I overstep? Miss Nandi asked timidly. Was I going too far by teaching her about the breath and the So-Hum meditation? Not at all, Hari said easily. You built up her confidence, allowing her to take the initiative with him. Good nature ribbing followed. The gods spoke in an elliptical, sophisticated Sanskrit filled with puns, insults, and innuendos, impossible to translate into the simple-minded politesse of English. Your discourse on the Gita was ridiculously brief, Pepe complained. She doesn't have much of an attention span, Sid responded. It would have been of little use to go on. In any case, does one really understand the Gita? Anyone, let alone follow its practical how-tos? Is that my fault? Pepe protested. She left Sid the donation, Hari said, changing the subject. I wonder how much. $500 max, I would say, Muthu wagered. 250 more likely, Hari said, laughing. What's next? Miss Nandi interjected diplomatically. A quarrel between Sid and Hari was to be avoided at all costs. The last time there was a disagreement between them, their battle lasted for centuries, during which time the universe floundered. What's next? We carry on, Hari said. It's going to be dangerous for her. What about Ganesha? Muthu asked, not willing to give up. Why is he taking so long? She may not remember me, but surely she'll know him. Can't Ganesha come now? He'll come when he does, Sid snapped, turned his back on them, and lapsed into deep meditation. The gods vanished. Miss Nandi stayed back for a few minutes in humble contemplation for her beloved lord. She would have remained on that mountain for eternity, but she had work to do. She quickly made her way south to Om Depot, where she took her position behind the counter and waited. And so ends the second part of this book. I do apologize for skipping over the sex scenes, but I imagine you can understand. If you did want the detailed account of that scene, you are welcome to check out this book, written by dear Tara Lamont. Anyway, next time we will begin reading the third part, titled Tattvam Asi, Thou Art That. Quote from the Chandogya Upanishad. Thank you for listening. We'll pause our reading there. The Divine Mother of the Universe has connected, at least at some level, with the Divine Father again. I look forward to seeing how their relationship evolves as we continue reading Moksha, Liberation. Namaste. And that concludes our Shravana for our Sangha, portion dedicated to listening. Now you have my full attention, and we can explore any concept on our hearts and minds in Manana, section dedicated to Q&A and interaction. There we've landed. Welcome everyone who joined while we were reading. Thank you, dear Gabby, for the 6 roses you had sent. Hare Krishna. And dear Dab Darker, thank you for your heart me as well. Ram Ram. Thank you, Eloise, for the follow. And dear Fiddly Fig, Waterwind, thank you for sharing the live. Welcome, Golden Age. And dear Hannah, thank you for the follow, dear Salvi. And thank you for liking the live, dear Jack. Guy Guardian, you share. The author added those scenes because sex sells, apparently. It really does. But also, it is a very spiritual part of our life. We all come from it. It's important that we affirm, place in spirituality for it, as long as we are engaging with moderation and self-restraint, knowing that it is not for the purpose of extracting joy from each other, but for sharing that sacred bond and for bringing life in many ways into this world. I hope you are all at this moment feeling affirmed, feeling loved, cared for. I'm so grateful to have an audience of such diverse backgrounds, coming from different places and times. Anyone who's new, you are always welcome to introduce yourself. I'd love to say hi and know where you're from. And I'd also love to know how you're feeling, what kind of space to hold tonight. Dear Waterwind, you're wondering about the Discord. Is there a subscriber chat? No, there is not. I don't want to create an exclusive community. I want everyone to be able to be included in the same way. I'm actually in the process of creating a new Discord server. For a while I've been struggling with what to do with the old one. The old server has about 2,000 members, but most of them came from a time when I was expressing a different form of content on my TikTok. And as such, I don't feel like it would be right to make certain changes to that server without dishonoring the original intention of people joining it and the space that they had there. So after a while of thinking, I've decided I'm going to leave that old Discord server just as it is. I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to change it. It'll continue to be there for people to connect just as they did. But I am going to create a new Discord server with the new intentions I have ever since I started doing the Sangha. I'm hoping that the additional Discord server will be up soon, and I have a lot of ideas for how to make that space an extension of the community we have here. Hello, dear Mina. Fiddleaf, you're Gwen. Well, thank you for sharing. I'll try to remember that. Dear Gwen, you are from California and you feel content and not 100% new here. Oh, that's okay. Dear user 623, you are Kate from New York City and you're happy to be here. Well, nice to meet you, Kate. Although I believe we've met before. Welcome, dear Aurora. Yes, we had just finished reading a few minutes ago. And hello, dear Rizisiu. Oh, what a fantastic name you have. I will have to learn how to pronounce it. Rizisiu. Rizisiu. RZYSIU. That is true, dear Sky Guardian. With my logic, I would create a new TikTok, but hey, I gotta at least leverage the fact that I am able to reach a wide audience with the number of followers I have. I don't have to start entirely from scratch. But the difference between my profile and my server is that my profile is entirely run by me. That I get to decide what I want to do with it. So I use that to transition to new ways of expressing myself on the internet. But with the server, it's not entirely mine. It's shared by the audience. And thus, I don't want to completely transform the nature of the server, because it's also the people that are participants in it. They get to decide what they want to do with it too. Dear Mina, you ask, am I based in America? No, I am from Canada, dear. And what am I gonna do when TikTok is banned? Well, I'll invite all my fellow Americans to Canada. Come. We've got free healthcare. We've got lots of igloos for you. Lots of maple syrup. I recommend using a VPN, perhaps. That is your right as a citizen of the internet to access things in other places using VPNs, for example. But we'll see. I highly doubt that it actually will be banned, because I'm sure that politicians can say, hey, look at how much money it generates for the economy. And then the US government goes, money, we like that. But if it were the case that much of this community wouldn't be able to access this live stream, then I could consider exploring other platforms. Thank you, dear Waterwind, for your fast burst. Quartet of roses and donut too. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Hello, dear Kyoto, welcome. Can we make a commune in Canada? Maybe. But we'd have to really learn from all of the communes that have failed in the past and consider how they can often lead to really exclusive communities that can harbor oppression or people being taken advantage of. And my idea of community is for all of humanity to get along, and I want to create the spirit of community with everyone in our lives and not necessarily localize that to any particular place. Hello, Pulla. Thank you for your support, dear Gwen. Dear Waterwind, you're wondering if I have a website. I have a link tree, and on that link tree, it's like a tree for links. You know, a tree branches out into many different places. So too, there's a list of links in my link tree that connect my different platforms together. Dear G to Infinity, you ask, what do we need to get that kind of community started? We need boundaries. We need open and transparent communication. And we do need a way to share vulnerability while keeping in mind those boundaries. It's a very difficult balance to have trust that you can take refuge in each other's experiences, but also maintaining protocol for ensuring everyone's safety and security. There needs to be forgiveness and love, the ability to value each other's experiences and see ourselves in them and them in us. There needs to be a common goal something to work towards together. There needs to be methods of apologizing and resolving conflict, to name a few. All of these things go into a healthy, inclusive community. Dear Katie, you like a common goal? Well, that helps. Me too. Radhe Radhe, dear Magdalene. Oh, dear Blue Star, you feel lost. I was the only thing you look forward to every day. Well, I'm here with you now, aren't I? But remember that not all those who wander are lost. Exploring new territory will always mean going outside of the familiar. And in any way in which I can help you, dear Blue Star Sapphire, feel at home, let me know. Dear Pula, you ask, what upsets me? What upsets me is all the suffering in the world. I am very upset by that. And I try to remain centered and not let that upset prevent me from cultivating the peace that I want to see in the world, so that I can create a better place from a place of goodness within already. And thank you, dear Lumi, for your heart me and little crown. Om Hring Namah Shivaya. Hello, dear Marcy. How are you doing? Did you bring a Sangha snack today, besides yourself? Hello, dear Melissa. Do I believe that our individual consciousness will be found in the next life? How can you find that which is doing all the seeking? You look from a place of consciousness. But if you are asking if the nature of yourself, when it comes to the people that love you in this life, will be able to cherish that love and continue to find parts of you in the next life, then absolutely. For example, ever continue to find parts of you in the next life, then absolutely. For example, as I think it just cut out. Do let me know when my connection returns, that I can continue where I left off. I'm back. Thank you, Maya. For example, if you believe in reincarnation, all of the loved ones in this life you have are your loved ones in past lives too. But we always switch up the roles to make it interesting. If I say to you that I vow to love you in all ways possible, then in this life I may be a friend, in your next life I may be a mother, in the life after that I could be a sister, in the life after that I could be your puppy that always licks you every time you come home, in the life after that I could be a butterfly that lands on you each summer to remind you that you are acknowledged. In this way, we may forget each other at the level of body and mind, but at the level of soul, we never forget each other. For example, let's say you meet someone new and very quickly you discover that you love the physical contact you have with this person. It's like you just fit together. Even if it's platonic, you just are like puzzle pieces, always cuddling next to each other when you have an outing with friends. Why? Well, maybe because 4 lifetimes ago, you were a pair of bunnies together that snuggled up in a little den underneath a willow tree. And so you're just continuing where you left off, snuggling like bunnies under a willow tree. It's just now you have human bodies, and instead of a willow tree, you have seating in a McDonald's. But it feels the same. And thank you, Muraded is Oficial, for your trio of roses. Nice to have you again. Hare Krishna. And dear Deb, thank you for your rose. Om Aing Saraswatyai Namaha. Hello Uru. I am well, thank you. How are you? And hello dear Mariham. Oli. I like that question, Matthew. If I am you and you are me, who are we? And yet we are one. We are different possibilities of the same source. You are fine, dear Odo. I'm happy to hear that. Hello, dear Angel. And thank you, Giuliano, for your fest burst. Ram, ram. Hello, Bubbles. That's right, Olski. I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. And one of us is the walrus. Much love, dear Angel. Love is our true identity. In case you need to hear it, nobody needs love because everybody is love, but we all need a space to put that love, and we all provide a space for others to put their love too. When we love others, we can't really love love itself in the sense of adding anything to an infinite source. But we can agree to give love to a space that they provide for us, like their body, their mind, their dreams and aspirations. Likewise, we can do the same for them. You really love love, dear Uru? Well, you transcend logic then, and I love that. Thank you. Is it Juliano or is it Giuliano? Is it a hard ja or a soft huh? I don't think I've ever asked, and you've never corrected me. But thank you for your fest burst and ice cream cone and GG and Rose and TikTok and TGIF and Heart Me. Om Shri Mahalakshmyai Namaha. Dear Sea Bunny, you ask, how closely related is peace to love? There can be no peace without love. There can be no love without peace. Peace is love in the form of stillness. Thank you, Rahina, for your media too. Or your media. No, that's a slip as I was reading your username. Thank you for your heart, me. But our heart is the medium of love. Thank you for that. Hare Krishna. Dear Meena, you ask, how can you stop hating people? Asking for a friend. If you have anger, anger is a valid emotion. Just don't let your anger be used to repress someone, but to empower a group of people. We can transform hate into empowerment for a group of people that might be being oppressed by the person that you say you hate. For example, you can say you hate someone who is racist, but you can alternatively empower minorities and stand up for them. What you've observed is that someone is up here and you hate the fact that they've put someone else down. So instead of using that anger to put them down to the same level, lift that person or people up so that we all continue to rise together with empowerment. That is to say, instead of targeting that energy to remove something, use that energy to create something. And that serves the same purpose, just done from a different perspective. Let us use that energy, that passion, to inspire others, to echo the voices of the vulnerable or weak. Instead of bringing our attention to all of the perpetrators, let's bring our attention to those who are being walked over, talked over, and bring them up. Does that make sense? That way you get to validate the emotion, but you express it in a way that doesn't take away from anyone's life, but adds to it. Thank you for the follow earlier, dear Cheryl and Harmony. Someone said I seem like someone who has low blood pressure. Sometimes a little too low. And if I stand up too quickly, I might pass out. But I've learned that certain breathing techniques can remedy that. Happy birthday. And I like the way you put that, Kalum. Our heart is a piece of love. And hello, Hihi. That's your motivation for making music, dear Mina. I'm so happy to hear that. Regina, yes. I like the way you phrased this as a question. Do we stay victims and strike back? Or do we empower ourselves to overcome instead? And dear Caleb, you share, all you want is to rewatch the TikTok where I talk about dualism versus monism, also the one about silence. I'm happy you liked those videos. Well, I may not be able to private videos make unprivate the videos I created in the past, because my intention ultimately did not resonate with higher spiritual principles I've come to understand. And if you are committed to growing with me in our journey, then I look forward to telling you more about those perspectives that has since changed the way I understood how I want to express myself online. And I'd like to remind you that, if you really liked those videos, you are in the presence of the source of those videos. So you can go and receive even more than you ever could from those videos by engaging with me as the source of those videos here. All you could ever ask for from those videos by engaging with me as the source of those videos here. All you could ever ask for from those videos. Dear Olski, you ask, how do you make the distinction between a loving act and a hateful one? A loving act is not exclusive in its love, and a hateful act is not inclusive in its love. People can do hateful things and call it love indeed, but if that love represses or oppresses anyone, then can we really call it love when it's not inclusive? When an act is for the benefit of everyone, then we can call it love. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that I cut out and I glitched a few moments ago. Dear James, you had asked, could I explain the difference between having a vision or desire versus being a delusion? Are you trying to get anything from the world? Have you made the assumption that your happiness is staked in something that you receive from the external world? If that is the case, at best, you will be met with temporary reward, pleasure, gratification. But at worst, you're setting yourself up for long-term dissatisfaction, because the world cannot maintain a source of happiness. It is always changing, fluctuating and finite. But if you know that the source of your happiness comes from within, and this vision is not to get anything, but to give, to create something in this world from a place within, then that is true. And if you continue to believe in yourself, it is only a matter of time before that vision manifests. It's your birthday, dear Mina. Much love under the seas. I like that question, dear Bubbles. Does my next act help reduce suffering in the world? Mina, you dream of a world that has sustainable happiness. Maybe the aliens can help with that. That is a beautiful dream. And thank you for such a great question, dear James. You have 2 birthdays now, dear Mina. Not just 2, but 366. You are addicted to love, dear Uru. You need to steal all the love. Well, there's enough love to go around. No need to steal it. Happy holidays, dear Kenji. That's a great monk name, dear Sky Guardian. Swami Santananda. Welcome, dear Annie. Dear Kevin Padre, may you all be feeling peaceful, happy, joyful, and may you find acceptance in all other feelings you are going through at this time. Dear Mariham, you always give more love than you receive, but it's okay. We should all aspire to give more love to others than they give back themselves. Let us create a world where we are always trying to love more than the previous. We are, in essence, love itself. And as love, we can't receive any more love. Because that would imply that we weren't already infinite. However, we can, in a figure of speech, receive love. But not at the level of self, at the level of the part of ourself that is in this world, which is the body and the mind. And ultimately, we get these things from the world, and we give them back to the world. We are caretakers of body and mind. And our bodies and minds are simultaneously the instruments to give love, to give our true self to others, and receive love, receive the true self of others. But we can always give more than we can get, because no matter what we do get, we do leave our body and mind as the receptacle of these things behind as we go forth in the greater journey of life. So it is what we give that matters most, where we find our ultimate purpose and meaning. And thank you, dear Usha Priyaji, for your hanging lights and fast burst. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. I love this chat groove too, dear G. Thank you, Maya, for the follow. And welcome, dear Pratsoni Ji. Dear Jizu, you share you want to eat a spiritually healthy, plant-based diet, but the temptation of how good bad food is strong. Yes. Allow me to show the food triangle on your screen. Here I've got the blackboard up. I call this the food triangle. In a food triangle, there are 3 different qualities of food. There's healthy food, there's tasty food, and then there's cheap food. Or let me, yeah, sure, cheap is fine. The thing about the food triangle is that you can only pick 2. So what do you want? You can have healthy and cheap food, but it's not going to be tasty. You can have healthy and tasty food, but it's not going to be cheap. And you can have cheap and tasty food, but it's not going to be healthy. I am going to argue that the best combination is healthy and tasty food, because you're worth it. That food, good food, is a reasonable investment, because not all food is created equal. How that food affects you is very different. If you are going to make your body, which is what you're doing through eating, then you would want to choose high quality food. And you want it to be a good experience for your senses too, to make it as easy as possible to eat a good diet. Because there are good and tasty foods. There's even healthy desserts. So, if we consult the food triangle, my answer would be to invest in good food, because your body is worth it and the effect it has on your mind too. I've made crossfires hungry. Recently, I went to the store and I had the food triangle in mind. I was thinking, what kind of food is healthy and and is tasty. And so what I did is I bought a wide assortment of vegetables that I could make into various salads and sandwiches and wraps. Give myself variety. That way I'm not just eating the exact same foods every day, which can get very bland, but a whole bunch of different kinds of tasty foods. And if you can get foods preserved in the traditional way of being in jars, then that can be a cost-effective way of buying good, healthy and tasty foods too. Like sun-dried tomatoes. Tomatoes that last a long time. Instead of having to buy tomatoes every week, you can buy a big jar of sun-dried tomatoes, which are naturally preserved by the salt and oil. Very healthy, very tasty. I hope some of those tips help out. Dear Fiddleleaf, you share, you look at good food as your health insurance premium. I like that. And add to that getting fresh air and sunlight. Thank you, Kalo. Dear Regina, you share that a nice blueberry tea is so delicious for dessert. Or stewed apples. I like that. Fruit is, nothing like a nice fruit. I agree, Ruth. Dear Chizu, you ask, am I vegetarian, pescatarian, or have any disciplinary diet? I do, yeah. And this was not a vow, but naturally what happened over time. Oh my goodness, my blackboard has turned into a whiteboard. The name of the diet that I naturally aspire to is called a sattvic diet. Nope, that's diet, isn't it? A sattvic diet. And the idea is, coming from ancient Indian philosophy, everything in the universe can be divided into having 3 different kinds of energies. I recently made a video touching on them. And it applies to almost every aspect of life, and in this case, food. The 3 kind of energies that everything can have are tamas. Tamas means darkness. Rajas. Rajas means passion. And lastly, sattva, which is the most important here, which means purity. Every time there's a trinity of things, there's tamas, rajas, and sattva involved. For example, the three states of existence, deep sleep, dream, and waking, are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, respectively. The three forms of the divine as the destroyer, the creator, and the sustainer are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, respectively. The three bodies, the physical, the mental, and the causal, are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, respectively. The past, the future, and the present are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, respectively. We could continue this list forever, but when it comes to food, I'll give you some examples. Tamasic food, you know it's tamasic when afterward you go into a food coma. There are certain kinds of foods that when you eat, you go, oh, that was tasty, but now I need to take a nap. That's food in the mode of darkness, tamas. It includes meat and eggs, for example, as well as no, wait. Trying to remember. Yeah, meat and eggs, basically. Rajasic food is the food that makes you overthink. Yeah, thank you, dear fiddle leaf. Alcohol is here as well. But I wouldn't consider it a food necessarily, but it is tamasic indeed. Yeah. Rajasic foods include spice, really spicy, like super spicy foods. A little bit of spices, not bad. But really spicy food is rajasic. Also caffeine. And whatever they use in energy drinks. And onion and garlic. All of these things lead to overthinking, which if you're on the spiritual path is not going to be your favorite experience. Taurine, yeah. That's in a lot of energy drinks. And sattvic foods are those that are very, how shall I say, very simple. These include fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, and it does include sugar. This is one of the very unique diets where sugar isn't demonized. But obviously this doesn't include processed sugar. We're talking about natural sugar. Sugar is found in fruit, for example. I'm running out of space, but it also includes legumes, grains, whole grains, and I am really running out of space now, but it does include whole dairy. And ethically sourced, all of these things. And I really want to emphasize that for the case of dairy, that the cow is treated with respect and love and lives a full life, not crammed in with other animals. And there is a kind of consensual process where the farmer knows that the cow knows that it's giving milk to have people use for food, for example. You won't get that with mass-produced dairy products. This is the diet that's given in the yogic scriptures. So as such, it's also called the yogic diet. And the reason it's so important is because what you eat affects what you think. If you have a tamasic dominant diet, your mind is going to be very dark, very negative. If you have a rajas dominant diet, your mind is going to be filled with passions and desires that probably get the best of you. But if you have a sattvic diet, your mind will be very simple, very pure, very easygoing. And so that is the diet recommended for spiritual seekers. But go easy on yourself. If you do want to explore a new diet, don't do it overnight. Just slowly and slowly transition at the speed that your body is ready. And no judgment. For example, if you noticed while I was speaking about these things, I chose very carefully my language not to amplify this diet for moral reasons, but for spiritual reasons. There's a lot of judgment that comes with our diet. No judgment. Judgment is inherently tamasic. The sattvic thing is to understand and accept that we're all in different places in our dietary needs, and all of our bodies are different. Hello, dear Stav. Other dairy alternatives are also very sattvic too, like soy milk, almond milk. Honey is sattvic, dear Pesto, yes. And a good source of sugar too. I won't judge you for never flaking on garlic, dear Marcy, but I do want everyone to know that garlic is a medicinal rather than a source of food. There are medicinals in our food, but it is not a main meal. It's a medicine. And the medicine happens to taste very good, but I wouldn't base your diet in a medicine. I wouldn't be taking painkillers every day and Pepto-Bismol and eating all sorts of herbs and spices that are used for teas and stuff as your main source of dietary needs. It has medicinal properties, which is very good. But it's one of the biggest sources for an overactive mind. And so if you are struggling with a mind that's moving really quickly, jumping from topic to topic, one of the best things you can do for yourself is limit the amount of garlic in your diet and other rajasic foods. That's just to keep that door open for you. Not to tell you you're doing anything wrong, but so you have that option available if you ever want to explore that. Dear Frey, You share your biggest fear is you don't get to experience life again when you're gone. That's a very relatable fear. But remember, you never leave. The source of your fear lay in your word choice of being gone. But what actually leaves? From your perspective, you can never leave your own presence. You are one with your presence. Yourself cannot be separate from yourself. Whatever you are, whatever your life is, that can't be taken from you, because you are that. It would be like saying, I'm going to steal $1 from the dollar. I'm going to take $1 out of the dollar. Now you can try to think about it like a riddle. But I mean it very literally. And literally, you cannot be taken from yourself. And you are that life. Remember this. When you say you fear that you won't experience life again, you are that life which is doing all the experiencing. That can't be taken from you, because it is you. Our body may go. Our body will go. It's not a may or may not kind of thing. It is true that our instrument of experience is going to go. But miracles are absolutely possible in the infinitum of your existence beyond the body, beyond the mind. Consider the fact that whatever you are, miraculously, before it was born, it was there, and at some point it came into contact with this instrument that is a body and a mind, and you only return to the very same nature that you have been before that. Who is to say that that miracle of life won't continue in some other way? And thank you, Haley Queen, for your heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Dear Girly Girly, you had asked, what does it mean to be your authentic self? It means to serve others, because your highest nature is that which is within everyone. To authentically be your true self means to be the spirit of the universe that empowers all, that gives love to this body and mind and every body and every mind. Dear Pesto, you ask, are cigarettes plant-based? Yes, they are, besides all the chemicals that companies add to them. But they're not a source of food, because you don't exactly eat cigarettes, do you? Besides, nicotine is definitely rajasic, and the carcinogenic effects of the tar is definitely tamasic. Namaste, dear Jen Jones. I do think it is funny how much we love our garlic and our cultures. But remember, are our possessions something we own? Or are we being owned by our possessions? When we can so strongly identify with something, can we ask the question, is it because I am using this, or is it because it is using me? Am I in control of this substance, or is this substance in control of me? And we can use that question not just for garlic and onion, but other rajasic substances too, like caffeine. Are you truly using the caffeine? Or is the caffeine using you? I don't want to scare anyone. I'm not trying to get you to doubt yourself, but to empower that everything you need is in here. All your sources of energy, when it comes to what you are able to make of the world, comes from here. Hello, Felipunk. Hello, dear Nicole. It's very wise, dear Katie. Dear Real Yeti, you share, as someone who loves garlic, you enjoyed the sattvic meals from the temple, and you want more research on different diets. I'm very happy to hear that. I think the concern is that you will somehow have to eat less tasty food. But that's not true. Perhaps you've never had a sattvic meal. There's no question of whether one's tastier than another. Made in the right way, all diets can be equally tasty. Remember the food triangle. Dear Kiana, you share you want to come back as a tree. I love that. That is very beautiful. But I do want you to love the unique possibility you have as a human. Tree is absolutely a model for giving without judging, stillness, and selflessness. And we all can learn from trees in that aspect. But our branches can extend in places that trees cannot. Our branches can extend across the whole world and provide sweetness and shelter through love to people on the other side of the planet. The gift of being human is not just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but a once-in-a-million lifetimes opportunity. where all of our energy centers are in the highest alignment to achieve the greatest possibilities. And thank you, Galena, for your rose and heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And dear Davis, thank you for your heart me too. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear Pesto, you wish humans can do something like photosynthesis. Life would be much easier. If we could just stand in the sun, absorb sunlight that way. We can do something similar. It's just not the light of the sun per se that we can absorb, but the light radiating from everyone's hearts. That love light, light love. Take that. Be energized by the goodness that comes off of each person. Take that and use it to create wonderful things. Dear Real Yeti, you share, because you used to be vegan for a few years, you didn't think you did it properly because your iron levels nosedived, so trying to keep that in mind with new diets. It is absolutely important to take care of all of your dietary needs, your nutrition, your macronutrients and your micronutrients like iron. I will admit that being a vegetarian is in many ways harder than being an omnivore. And that's because meat is a great survival food. Basically, you're relying on another animal to get all their nutrients for you. So you don't have to worry about it. You can just eat the animal that has gathered all of the nutrients so that you don't have to. In other words, it's doing the work of managing your diet for you. But this is not to dismiss the other effects of meat. There are unfortunately many health defects that can come from that diet. Therefore, if you're in a survival situation, it is an excellent source of nutrition. But if you're not in a survival situation, if you live in a functioning society, or at least semi-functional at the level of food distribution, then it's your responsibility to gather your nutrition. You can't rely on another animal spending their life for you. And that is why it is harder for the vegetarians to make sure they get all their nutrition, because they're taking accountability. So, to take accountability for your diet means to manage your own nutrients. Make sure you're covering all the macro and micronutrients. Dear Jestpur, you wrote a poem called Sun and Moon about day and night, like it's a ballet. I love that, And yes, as dear Marcy shares, I would love to hear it. If you want to share it with us, I have a submission form for things like that in the link tree in our bio, and that applies for everyone. Dear Kamuniti, you ask, how do you feel about not knowing when you've been disrespectful? Well, I hope to have my friends and family know that if ever I've crossed a boundary, that they are always welcome to tell me. And I want them to be able to show me where their boundaries are so that I can affirm my role for them. So as long as we live in a role model position, such that every time someone does express a boundary with us, that we don't get offended, then that can open up space for others to tell us with open and transparent communication when we have an opportunity to reflect on their needs and our role for them. As long as we are living in such a way that we take accountability for our actions and we live with humility, then every time that another person is feeling disrespected is a time for growth for you, because that means that you get to learn something new. You get to learn about how you can conduct yourself in an even more inclusive way that takes into consideration other people's values and boundaries and makes them feel understood, listened to, cared for. Oh, if you want to share, dear Jestpor, always up to you. Dear Kamukniti, you share, you've asked your friends to keep you honest. Well, that's good. But they're not great about confrontation. I see. That's when we can ask. We can always go slow with the ways we express ourselves and then follow up with questions. We can pay attention to little cues like their body movement or their face. See if we said something that makes their face turn sour or something, or they turn to face away from us, or if they're no longer as receptive to the things we're sharing. If it looks like they've withdrawn a little bit, we can use those signs and then ask, are you okay? Did I say anything that upset you? It's okay if I did. Or, let me rephrase that. It's okay for you to tell me if I did. I would like to know. I'm not attached to the particular words that I choose. If there's another way in which I can phrase things that would make you feel better, if I can clarify anything, or if I can take back anything, please let me know. Things like that. Hello, Hannon. Dear Pesto, you share you're not good at relationships. Always good to acknowledge where you have room to improve. However, I would rephrase that, because otherwise you're identifying with a limitation. If you say you're not good at something, then how will you get better at it? If you are going to identify with the fact that you could be better in it. So we could say, I have the chance to become more understanding in how I conduct my relationships. It says the same thing, just from a place that opens you up rather than closes you off. Hello, dear Belinda, and we are Unity, and Emily, and Baddie XOX. Dear Pesto, you share that you pushed people from your life, family and friends. Now you feel like you'll be lonely for the rest of your life. It can certainly feel like that at times, but we have to be careful not to generalize with our emotions. Whatever we are feeling, it always comes to pass. Every single feeling that ever comes changes into something different. I don't know the contents of your life. Maybe you needed to set boundaries with those people, or you needed to give yourself space from them. But don't let your past hold you back from all the possibilities that are available for you now. You will always be capable of connection, and there is room for forgiveness and reconnecting sometimes too. It is hard, dear Amanda. I agree with that. Dear Real Yeti, you share you cooked a tamasic meal today. It was vegetarian until you added eggs. Next time you'll try substituting with chickpeas. That's a great idea. Marcy, you recommend blending some mung beans for a veggie-friendly egg replacement. Very true. And there's a company that makes really good egg substitute that Sky Guardian shared with me. It's not sattvic because it contains onion and garlic, I think, so it's rajasic, but it's not tamasic. Thank you, dear Kiwi Cake Sings, for your rose that you had sent. Om Shrim Mahalakshmiyai Namaha. Dear Hannon, you ask, how can you know which people are good for your path? Well, it's great to surround yourself with people that share similar interests as you. It's great to have people in your life that support you and see you and validate you. But it's also a great thing to keep your environment diverse. We cannot avoid the reality that there are going to be people that cross paths with us, that are going to challenge us and test our boundaries. And they serve an important role in our life too. They allow us to double down on all of our self-worth and love, and make sure that we are acting from a place of inner validation and stability so that they can't shake us. And it's a blessing when that happens too, even if it doesn't feel like it at times. If we can remember that nobody is out to get me, but sometimes the divine inspires people to challenge me, even if they don't realize it. The divine is acting through them, giving me the chance to practice setting boundaries and being patient and responding with empathy and understanding. Keeping that knowledge in your mind can make every interaction one which helps you grow. Thank you, dear Anna, for the rose you had sent. Ram Ram. And dear Hrisi, thank you for your heart, me too. Jaya Sita Ram. Chifa Ji, thank you for your finger heart and your trio of roses. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Dear Amanda, you wonder how old I am and what my zodiac sign is. Well, the age of this body is 23. And in Western astrology, my sun sign is Libra. Dear Maid Jardai Handa, thank you for your heart me and TikTok and Team Bracelet. Thank you, Fiddle Leaf, for sharing the live. And welcome, dear Drink My Drink in Santiago. Ifaji, you had asked, is there power in mantras, or would I recommend the way of Zen? Whatever speaks to your heart. Mantra meditation is an excellent way of getting into the zone. It is my personal favorite, but something can absolutely be said for the utter simplicity of Zen without using any method at all, just a kind of methodless method. I like that too. Whatever appeals for you, and you're welcome to switch it up. Maybe one time you try mantra meditation, another time you try Zen meditation. You think you trust me, dear Hannon? Well, you don't have to. Of the things that I share here, for example, I hope you know that you're never expected to share any part of yourself in return. Whatever feels right for you. And of the things that I share, don't take what I say on the basis of authority. I believe truth comes not from authority, but from it being self-evident. So if there's anything I share that you're not sure of, then that means I can do a better job bringing you to how that is true in your experience directly. So you never have to rely on another person's experience. Of the things I share from my experience, if you find truth in it, that is done through connecting in your own experience, finding the overlap in the Venn diagram. And so I hope these words stand for themselves, rather than relying on where they come from. Thank you, dear Chifa Ji, for your rose and friendship necklace. Hello, dear Laurie. Crossfires, you share, you feel uncomfortable, very uncomfortable with the people who challenge your self-worth. And that is completely understandable. And the default, until we can get to a place where we are secure enough in our self-worth that we are comfortable in all situations. It is a goal for us to be able to be so established in our truth that nobody can shake us out of that sanctuary of self-love, trust, and validation. But to get there is no easy task, and it takes small steps over a long journey to get there. Welcome, dear Jay. And thank you, Mr. Blue, for your pair of trios of ice cream cones. Om Aim Saraswatyai Namaha. Welcome, dear Cece. I love the way you put that, Fiddle Leaf. You heard once that we don't need to defend the truth. The truth will defend itself, and you loved that. I love that too. Dear Rai, you ask, do I practice asana as well? That's a kind of yoga that I haven't quite gotten to yet. Yeah. I'll tell you more about asana yoga though, and why I feel like I'm still figuring out earlier yogas. Long ago, there was a great yogi, and that yogi's name was Patanjali. Patanjali devised the system of yoga called Ashtanga, which means eightfold. And he said there's 8 steps into achieving yoga, which means union. The first step is called Yama Yoga. Yama Yoga is how to conduct yourself. We'll dive back into what Yama Yoga is in a second. The second yoga is Niyama, the yoga of how not to conduct yourself. The third yoga, and now I have to consult the list to make sure that I've got the order right. Then it's asana. Then after asana is pranayama. After pranayama is pratyahara. After pratyahara is dharana, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go into what these mean in a little bit. 7th is dhyana. And finally, the 8th is samadhi. This is the order of yoga. So once you've established yourself in one, then you move on to the next. You move on to the next yoga. So asana yoga is the 3rd step in the Ashtanga yoga system. You start working on your body after you work on the yamas and niyamas. I'm still working on the very first principle of yama, which is ahimsa, non-violence or least harm. I always say that of all of the yogas, I'm still figuring out the very first part of the very first yoga, which is how to live myself in this life, causing the least harm to this body and mind and others. On top of ahimsa, which is the yama, the way of conducting yourself in least harm. Let me consult the list too. There's satya, which is truthfulness, being honest with yourself and others. Asteya, non-stealing, which is giving more than you take in life. The 4th is brahmacharya, moderation, conserving your energy. And aparigraha, non-attachment, letting go, or non-greediness. I'm still working on these things. Then there's the 5 niyamas, the yoga of observances, which includes saucha, being pure and clean, internally and externally, santosha, contentment, and being disinterested in acquiring more than what you need. Tapas, which is self-discipline, austerity, or burning enthusiasm. Svadhyaya, self-study, self-reflection. And Ishvara pranidhana, contemplation of or surrender to a higher power. That's the yoga which should be done before one engages in asana. Then asana is practicing various seats of meditation. Then after asana is breath work, being able to use your breath in a way that calms the mind. Then there is pratyahara, being able to withdraw your senses from the external world. Then there is dharana, being able to concentrate on any subject for a given length of time. And second to last is dhyana, which is meditation. Meditation's at the very end. And finally that leads to samadhi, when everything comes together and you have the environment, body, and mind necessary to achieve union. And so that is the 8 limbs of yoga. Do these need to be done in sequence, asks Michelle? Yes, absolutely. You'll notice that all of these yogas, they work from outside to within. To skip from one yoga to another without firmly being established in the prior would probably be an example of a spiritual bypass. The most common example I can point to is that many people jump to asana yoga, which is working on your body before you work on how you conduct yourself with your environment. The idea is to ensure you have a peaceful environment to grow in before you start working on your physical body. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much work you put on your physical body through physical yoga, you're always going to be tense. Isn't that so? You can be the best yogi in the world when it comes to physical stretches, but if you still have a source of stress in your life outside, then you're going to be tense all the time. Or the asana yoga is not going to have as deep of an effect. Because the moment you return from the yoga studio to your home, where there's still abuse or trauma or boundaries being crossed, then we're still learning how to create an environment for us to grow in. Michelle, you ask, can't each of these be entry points though? Well, you're not going to get in trouble for starting later. You may first come into contact, and you probably will come into contact with one of the later limbs of yoga first. So yeah, that can be your introduction, is discovering one of the later yogas first. And you're not going to get in trouble for that. There's no yoga authority that's going to arrest you for practicing one yoga before the other. It's just that you won't truly benefit until you practice the other ones. So if this is the first time that you've heard of lower limbs of yoga and you've been practicing a higher one, then don't worry. This is not to lament. Just make sure you get in those other yogas first to really empower your present practice. Thank you, dear Chief Ajit, for your rose, finger heart, and quartet of roses in addition. Ariom Tat Sat. Welcome, dear Arlene. Aw. I'm so happy to hear that, dear Arlene. Dear Michelle, you share the asana practice you do involves pranayama, asana, and pratyahara, more relaxation. Yeah. Sometimes these words are used in a different way than you might be familiar with. But formally, the word asana just refers to the physical postures themselves. Yeah. But allow me to clarify that when I say do these things by sequence, I don't mean give up on your prior practices before you move on to the next. You should try to do all of them up to the point that you're currently comfortable with. So if you're doing all the way up to pratyahara, then that doesn't mean you do only pratyahara. It means that you make sure you include what's before that too. So you do pratyahara, and you do asana and pranayama, and you follow the niyams and yamas. That you're only adding to your sadhana, your spiritual practice. And you move to the next level, or you add the next level, I should say, when you are fully confident in your abilities of doing all of the prior yogas. I hope that makes sense. An integration of the system shares G to infinity. Yes. And thank you, spiritual vibes, for your heartbeat. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. And DMF, thank you for your quintet of rosas and rose. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Kev, for your fast burst. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Welcome, dear Robert. Well, I'll very much love to read your poem, dear Jestbor, and I'm so delighted that you're interested in getting used to sharing your poetry again. I know it is a personal thing, but beautiful words deserve to be heard. Dear Kiana, you've lost yourself giving all your energy and love and time to your kids. To take care of yourself feels selfish. That is something you and many other parents go through, and you're not alone in that. Your kids are yourself in many more ways than just one. There's of course the fact that they may have come from our DNA, but also all the things we teach them and the environment around us, part of the ways we express ourselves and decorate the space, all of that forms them and their minds. So you may feel like you've lost a part of yourself, but you are still attending to a part of yourself, perhaps a different part, or perhaps the same part, just in a different way. But remember that taking care of your body and your mind is not selfish for many reasons. For one, when you take care of your body and your mind, you're ensuring that you can be there for them. Because you can't expect yourself to always be there for them if you're not attending to your instrument of presence, that is your body and mind. So to take care of this instrument means to ensure that you will be able to be there for them in the long run too. That you are able to be there in their lives. That you want to be sure that you will have the health and well-being to possibly watch them graduate or walk down the aisle or hold their grandkids or your grandkids, their children. And the best way to ensure that you'll be in their life for as long as possible is to take care of your body and your mind. But perhaps most important of all, by taking care of your body and your mind, you show your children how to take care of their bodies and their minds too. We can truly only teach others to love others by loving them. Therefore, the only way we can teach them to love themselves, which is, I'm sure, something you want too, is to show them what it's like by loving yourself too. Jifaji, you echo that. Ram Dass says, the kindest thing you can do is work on yourself. I'm sure your children deserve a healthier mom, a kinder mom, a more compassionate mom, a stronger mom, a wiser mom. Here I'm using mom, gender inclusive, parents in general. And you can only increase those things for them by giving time for this body, this mind too. Hello, dear Brandy. Welcome, dear Alexia. What would you like to share, dear? Thank you, Jifa G, for your quartet of roses. Om Gham Jahnavyai Namaha. Health is very important, dear Brandy. Now, I do have a question for everyone today, as my question of the day. Today I wonder, when is sound magical? At what times and how? What is the nature of magic when it comes to sound? When it comes out of nowhere during deep prayer, that does sound miraculous. It's all Legos you share. 80 hertz and below with a lot of output. Deep sub-bass sounds. Katie, you share when a baby laughs unexpectedly. I like that. Sound is magical right now, shares Kate. All of the wubs. Wub, 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 wub. Indeed. Our voice can be very magical, dear G, as long as we're using it for healing, for love, for connection. Can we share health, dear Brandy? Well, the healthier you make yourself, the inspiration you are, more and more, for the people around you to be healthy too. When it makes someone happy, dear Ray, sound is magical. When it transports you to a different place, shares Donzuela. And Jifa G, you share, you would say, when you lose yourself and it uplifts the world. I like that. And thank you, dear Brandy, for your heart me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sound can be grounding, shares Kiana. Crossfires you share when a music box goes off randomly, just with one note or two. And Sarah, you share, not without the space between. Hello, Gentry. And Robert, you share, when it touches you deeply to tears, with just a note, knowing what song right away, feeling it. I love that. Thank you, Jifa G, for your rose. Lam Vam Ram Yam Ham Om. Thank you, dear Jen, for your 10 TGIFs. Om Namo Buddhaya. Hello, dear Derek. It's all Legos. You think it's magical when it's experienced. When it's a Hosier song, shares Kiana. It's all Legos you share when it stirs emotion, when it breaks molecules apart, when a resonant frequency is found, when it's used as a medium to communicate the experience of one to another. At -5 degrees Celsius, there's this old Dalos. Very specific. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Gentry. When it's silence, shares G. Dear Jen, you share when you were little. L-I-L, little. Scared of being kidnapped. You heard a harp and a voice say your name, and you felt safer after. That sounds divine. And hello me, show me. What did I just say? Hello me, homie. Welcome, dear Jacob. Thank you for your septet of roses, and 11 of them. Jaya Satchit Anandam. The space between sounds. Silence. Welcome. Oh my God. Oh my God. Welcome. Let's get it. And thank you, dear Jen, for your 10-finger heart. Not just Om, I have a mantra just for you, it is. Om Hring Namah Shivaya. Dear Thomas, you ask, what did I think of the non-duality roundtables I did? I'm grateful to be a participant of any conversation. And I continue to have lots of love for the host, Rahul Ji, of the Bearded Mystic podcast. Dear Nick, you share when it emits a strong response. And dear Anna, you write when you hear it with your soul. Good night, dear Brandy. When it's experienced as a good one, dear Chifa G. Hello, dear Josand. It's a beautiful question, dear Jestpur. I have something I'm looking forward to. Does anyone else? Thank you, dear Robert. Good luck with your unpacking. share, Rahina, you share. When you play the piano or guitar, it transmutes a lot of your emotional pains. That is a miracle. Thank you, Jifa Ji, for another friendship necklace and quartet of roses. Rorim. I have trouble saying your name. You share when it ignites a spark deep within and provokes an emotion that your soul needed. I love that. These have been wonderful answers, everyone. Dear Jen, you like how your non-verbal son plays the best songs, the best DJ. I love that too. Thank you, Rahina, for your trio of finger hearts. Om Hraum Hanumate Namaha. Derek, you ask, how would I guide souls on our planet at this time who are experiencing discord with family? To find their soul family, first and foremost. As is said in the Bible, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which means that we may be blood related to some, but have a deeper connection with others. And our true family will never be the ones that abuse us or misuse our love. As long as you are being held, cared for, loved, and have a place to put your love in return, then that is family. You might have biological associates, you could say. Some people have biological associates, and they may call themselves father, mother, sister, brother. But your soul mother, your soul father, your soul brother, your soul sister might be someone else. But during these times where we have a lot of holidays and we have obligations to our biological associates, it's good to remember to set boundaries and clear roles for each other. That I am not here, for example, to divide us or to try to prove something to you. We are not here to remove our differences, but to seek common ground, to value the time we share together, to learn and grow as one. Thank you, Comfy Witch Vibes, for your follow. That is the correct quote, shares G. People don't know the real quote. I guess I was one of the lucky few that came to the full quote before discovering that people had abbreviated it. People say, blood is thicker than water. I think that's the short quote, right? I don't know what people misinterpret that to mean. But yeah, the full quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And thicker, referring to liquids, is an analogy of cohesion. That a thick water is very cohesive, or a thick liquid binds strongly with fellow molecules, and it's difficult to separate. The thickness of the blood of the covenant means the cohesion for people that share the same goal as you, that are in spiritual union. That is far more important, greater than water, which can be thinner, less cohesive, of the womb, meaning of your biological relations. So people interpret it to mean the other way around, that family bond is thicker than water. How ironic. Yeah, the reason that was said is because in the Christian context that your brothers and sisters of God will have your backs, ideally, even if fellow family members do not. But this is true whether or not you're a Christian or any other religion. No matter who you are, your family is decided by you. You get to decide who you consider motherly, fatherly, brotherly, sisterly. And there's a lot of people that struggle because the person in their life that called themselves a mother or a father abused you. But let me tell you that the moment you abuse a child or anyone, you are no longer their mother, their father. That title is stripped away immediately. The title of father, the title of mother is so sacred that it can never bear the name of an abuser. So if you ever feel like your mother or your father was abusive, they weren't. Someone was abusive, but it wasn't a mother, it wasn't a father. And you are taken care of by a mother, by a father, always. Sometimes that father, that mother is not biologically related. Sometimes they can even be younger than you. It can be friends. It can be teachers. Sometimes it can even be stories with characters in them that take care of you within your own heart or dream. But everyone has a loving mother and father. Thank you, dear Savlin, for your finger heart. Om Kamlir Mahangalikaye Namaha. And not the stand user. Thank you for your heartmeat. Radhe Radhe. And Chifaji, thank you for your additional trio of roses. Om Aram Brahmane Namaha. Alright, I'm going to pause our question of the day, since it sounds like we had a good discussion that has shifted into new things. Thank you everyone for exploring it with me. reminds you of Sadhviji's father, the author and protagonist of the book we were reading before, Hollywood to the Himalayas. Yeah, that abused her. And throughout the entire book, she affirmed that her real father was not him. Dear Dak, you read that close to 50% of homeless adults are former foster children. That helps to know. It's good to know that the next time you see someone on the street, that there's a high likelihood that they're in need of a family. And if they could just be extended the love of a family, that would heal so many wounds. Dear Jen, you shared to let go of hurt feelings towards your folks. You had to look at them as children and how it was for them. We were all children once, and hopefully still are. But that time of development is so crucial in forming long-term habits. A lot of trauma is generational. It may get passed down to us. But it was passed down from our parents' parents. And their parents' parents' parents, etc. To heal from our trauma is to give honor to our whole lineage and ancestry. We empower our ancestors by being part of the generation that makes a difference, that breaks those bonds. And ushers in love and healing. Through space, through time, therapy, forgiveness. Thank you for being you, dear Gentry. Much love, dear Derek. It does break your heart, but inspires you to help other humans. Yeah. All of the suffering in the world deserves to be known by us, but not from a place of anger or hate, not in the sense of how could this happen, but from a place of being of service, of loving the role of loving others. And the more we have knowledge of the problems in the world, the more we should feel empowered to be a problem solver in the world. Every person in pain is an opportunity to help. And as we help others, we help ourselves too. since they are a part of us, and we are a part of them. There's no such thing as my life and your life as separate things. There is only the life we all share. It's powerful you can relate with some of those things, dear Robert. And Songbird, you were homeless too a year and a half ago. You're okay now. We're all in this journey together. We're all connected through energy and timelines. That's beautiful. Real Yeti, you'd like to remind yourself that your parents and anyone who has wronged you before are all living for the first time too. That is a very powerful perspective. I see the truth in that. Not the stand user, you share. Our best friends and partners and those who have the same traumas and coping mechanisms are those who have the same traumas and coping mechanisms. Our vibe attracts our tribe. As we help others, we help ourselves. Thank you for the follow, Songbird. Hello, Sarp. Dear Sarah, you share, the more we can know ourselves, the more we can know others, and love ourselves and love others. Much love, dear Songbird. You are beautiful. Anna, you ask, can I make the phrase life is unfair positive? I like to imagine that of the things that I feel talented in, it's the ability to find positivity within anything. But that's not to dismiss the people that find truth in the fact that they've lived a life that others have not. They have privileges that others haven't, and they've experienced suffering that others haven't too. In this way, still affirming the truth that can be seen in the phrase as it is, that life is unfair. Life provides us a reason to value fairness by showing us things that others lack so that we can give, and showing others things we lack so that we can understand. Dear Rumpel, you ask, but aren't our experiences different? Our experiences are different, but our feelings are the same. Even if I don't know what it's like to go through exactly what you have, I may know how that makes you feel, because we both know what it's like to lose something we love. We may have lost two entirely different kinds of things, but if they meant the same to us, then we know what it's like to grieve. We may have found joy in different things, but we both know what it's like to find joy. We may have experienced suffering in different ways, but we both know what it's like to cry. It's in that way that as we help others, we help ourselves. That there's a part of us in them and a part of them in us. No, we don't live the exact same life, but we all live in the exact same potential to get out of life the same feelings, the same intensity of emotion. And we all know the importance of peace, and harmony, and loving and being loved. Hello, dear Michelle. Dear Jestpur, you shared that your emails didn't work for the show and tell. You're confused as they are real accounts. I'm sorry to hear that. This is the first time that someone's had difficulty with that. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is, but yeah, it sounds like you've already tried multiple accounts, which would be the first thing I'd suggest. After that, I would just email it to me then. All I really need is the poem which you want to share, and then if you want to tell me the name of it too, or what it means to you, I'd love that, and what your preferred name is for me to address you. If you prefer your username or certain pronouns, that's all I need. My email is in the link tree in my bio. Yes, sleep is definitely a priority, dear songbird. You get there. May you have beautiful dreams and a rejuvenating sleep. It's all Legos, you ask. When we remove all of the confusion, what's left? Clarity, I would hope. And who is left, you ask? As to be selfless doesn't mean to deny oneself. It means to discover that the idea of it was a fabrication. It's very beautiful. Hello, dear Jonathan. I am well. How are you doing, my friend? You all are so lovely. The L stands for lovely. Dear Hudson asks, is this on a repeat? Yes, it is. And we'll be saying that again in 30 minutes when the video loops. And we are all trapped in a time loop. Thank you, dear Jen, for the hand hearts you sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And dear Savlin, thank you for your subscription to not only yourself, but some friends like Illust Philosophy, Colin05, J.M. Clark, HRH Zenny, and Bastian Silva. friends and family. Thank you. I look forward to any way in which our paths cross. Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudrah Prachodayat. Yeah, like Groundhog Day, dear G2 Infinity. Yeah. That's what you said last time. Dear Chifa G, thank you for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Hello, Crown Prince. And dear Songbird, thank you for the heart me. I hope they are off into the dream world, but my love extends in their direction anyway. Sadhyo jatam prapadyami. Sadhyo jatam prapadyami. Sadhyo jataya vai namo namaha. Bhave bhave nati bhave. Bhavasvamam bhavod bhavaya namaha. Guy Guardian, you ask, why did the sock join the podcast? It wanted to be part of the sole reason the mic sounds so good. That joke was so funny. It made all of our spirit guides laugh. Thank you, dear Gulai, for your 1, 2, 3, 4 roses. Hare Krishna. And dear Bobby Sue, thank you for your team bracelet. Cheer you up and heart me too. Om Namah Karling Mambita Me Shoring Nadita Me Horing Devita Me Aing Sarasvatyai Swaha. You have to go to the ashram tomorrow, but you want to stay for the movie. Well, we can do the movie soon. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, we're ending our live today with a movie night. Can I hear a ooh yeah? That's the closest sound effect I have to a ooh yeah. Woohoo! Sounds like we're all ready for the movie. Although if anyone wants to make popcorn, now would be the time. This hat is magical. Shares G, it is magical. I got the Christmas spirit. Of course, dear, it's all Legos. Continue to have you and your happiness and your loved one's happiness in mind. What is my favorite food? Asks dear Michelle. My favorite food is you. I'm gonna gobble you up. My favorite food is the friends we made along the way, and all of the spiritual nutrition that I get from not with my tongue, but my ears and my eyes, that serves as food for my mind and soul. Now, there are some great kinds of toppings you might want on your popcorn. A real healthy one is nutritional yeast. That's a great popcorn topping. You can melt cheese over your popcorn too. It's really good. Or you could add various spices. You could add some turmeric or curry powder. Or you could melt butter or clarified butter called ghee. You could even add sugar to your popcorn. That's pretty good too. Caramel. You could make it nice and sweet. Yeah, we're doing a movie night. And I'm purposefully stalling as to give you some time to get a snack. Or maybe you want to drink a cup of tea. All right. The movie's only 45 minutes, so it's not like a full feature-length film. But we will transition out to our movie scene. There. That's okay. Everyone who can't stay long enough for that, I wish you well. May you have a wonderful rest, and hope you have a good time at work. Alright, enough stalling for the movie. Time to bring it up. Let me tell you a little bit about it. This movie is called Mystic India, An Incredible Journey of Transformation. It's the story of this little boy who ends up becoming one of the most well-known spiritual leaders in modern times. That boy later became known as Swami Narayan, as well as many other epithets like Swami Sahajananda, which means husband of the Divine Mother, Swami. Organic bliss, Sahaja Ananda. As I said, it's about 45 minutes. And it was sent by Sky Guardian for us to watch. Swami Narayan is also the one who is speaking in the discourses of the Vachanamrut, which is a widely read spiritual text, one that I have been reading on my YouTube channel, and we've gone through over 140 verses, or passages, I should say, which are each made up of verses. So if you ever want to learn more about some of these teachings, I recommend checking out that playlist on the Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. I'm going to turn down our beautiful relaxing music and bring up Mystic India. And as a fun fact, the young actor who plays the role of Swami Narayan actually ended up becoming a Swami himself. And because when he was young, as a child, he played the role of Swami Narayan, his Swami name was named after Swami Narayan, which is the boy's name, Nilkanth. whole of this movie is available for free online, such as this YouTube channel, Born for Bapa. Let me arrange it so that the title isn't blocking your view. I'll be watching it with you. We'll see if I have anything to say, but normally I get sucked into these things, so I'm pretty quiet. It's Ganesha. This looks like Holi, the festival of color. Perhaps, could be another celebration. Definitely one I'd want to attend. And perhaps get overstimulated by very quickly.
It is a place where extraordinary things seem commonplace. There is only one India, Mark Twain wrote, a country of 100 nations. The land of dreams and romance. The one land all desire to see. On a world tour, Twain traveled throughout India. He saw a land of remarkable treasures of human creativity built across millennia. India is a land of colorful customs and fascinating events that are among the largest and most spectacular in the world. Of festivals that enliven the earth and celebrations that paint the sky. But the most valuable treasure cannot be seen at all. It lies hidden in India's silent spirituality, making her a mystic land of meditation, contemplation, and enlightenment. The quest has continued in India for thousands of years to understand the great secrets of life beyond our material world, striving to elevate the human spirit. seeking to know not how to conquer the world, but how to live in peace. How to understand life and life beyond death. Age-old philosophies have given rise to a gentle way of life that gives space to all other forms of life. India is a land of timeless traditions where worship and daily living are interwoven. It is also a land of lonely journeys made by people of remarkable devotion called yogis. To reach a deeper understanding of existence, they willingly leave the comforts of home and family and endure the hardships of nature. They develop amazing powers of body and mind through yoga and self-discipline. Their efforts to share insights with others can lead to great stories of courage, sacrifice, and wisdom. One such story has inspired millions. The story of a boy who took an extraordinary journey through the wonders of mystic India. His name was Nilkanth, and he was only 11 years old. But he had long studied the Hindu Vedas, one of the world's oldest scriptures. For one so young, he was remarkably enlightened in the ways of his faith. On this night, he resolved to do something extraordinary. All along, his family had known and accepted that one day he would leave his home to become a yogi. On June 29th of 1792, he set out alone and barefoot to walk thousands of miles carrying nothing. No one could have imagined that the journey of a young boy would help reform India in the late 18th century and awaken others to loving, respectful ways of life. He would have to leave behind all that was familiar in his hometown of Ayodhya and walk into the unknown world beyond. So that he couldn't be followed, he left the village in a way no one would expect. A dangerous way. He entered the river Saryu at full flood, not knowing where he would emerge, or if he would emerge at all.
Whoa. What an exit. Or an entrance.
Surviving the river strengthened Nilkanth's determination, which he marked in Indian tradition by tying his hair into a knot, a declaration of firm resolve. His first steps would turn over time into a journey that would last 7 years and cross nearly 8,000 miles. It was an incredible adventure through a vast land of great variety. India is one of the world's largest countries, a single nation as large as all of Europe. In Nilkanth's journey across the length and breadth of India, he would pass through nearly every kind of habitat on Earth, all contained in this one land. In the north, he would climb the roof of the world, the highest mountains on Earth, called in Sanskrit the Himalayas, the home of snow. In these treacherous, icy mountains, he could face freezing temperatures below zero. A stark contrast to the 120 degrees in India's scorching, waterless deserts, and to the country's dense tropical forests, including Cherrapunji, one of the world's rainiest areas. He would walk along the largest peninsula in the world, a coastline more than 4,000 miles long. He would see vast, fertile plains which support a population that today represents 1/6 of all the people in the world. Nilkanth's odyssey will also take him through an ancient cradle of civilization, where advanced human settlements arose more than 8,000 years ago. Recent discoveries suggest that a great culture had developed in India even before those of Egypt or Mesopotamia. Across the ages, Indian minds helped drive human progress. From farming the earth to mapping the skies, India has made important contributions to astronomy, geometry, and mathematics, including the invention of the zero and the decimal system. Medicine and surgery advance here, and India's science of longevity, called Ayurveda, contains the knowledge of 100,000 medicinal herbs. Inspiring concepts and practices such as yoga and non-violence have influenced human life everywhere. To share these values with others, Nilkanth first walked northwest from his home in Ayodhya toward the region where India's holiest river, the Ganges, is born. Wherever he traveled, the sight of such a young yogi, all alone, surprised people.
Are you lost, child? You should be at home, not out here in the forest.
I am at home. It is others who are lost.
But where exactly are you going?
Wherever I can help people.
Impressed by such an answer, they urged the boy to come that night to the nearby town of Haridwar, an important place of pilgrimage. Nilkanth would witness the Aarti, a ceremony of lamps held every evening for thousands of years to worship the waters of the Ganges. Haridwar is also a site of the largest festival on earth, a month-long Purna Kumbh, held every 12 years and attended by as many as 70 million pilgrims. This night, the chief priest interrupted the rites when he noticed the child yogi.
We've never seen such a young yogi. Who are you and where are you from?
My name is Neelkanth. I have no home. I only have a journey.
Then why don't you make your home here, in this holy city?
My journey is like a cloud. Because there is thirst everywhere, I just cannot stop moving.
Following the traditional ways of his land, Nilkanth performed morning prayers and devotions no matter where he was. India is a land of intriguing rituals. From birth to death, Indians perform special ceremonies to infuse everyday living with deeper meanings. A young child is weighed using sugar crystals, an expression of pure, sweet love. Brides decorate their hands with herbal dye before the day of marriage, a symbolic appeal for prosperity and fertility. While marriage begins with a colorful ceremony of 7 pledges for lifetime commitment. The final rites confirm that death is not the end, but a passage to the next life. It was death that Nilkanth faced when he reached Shripur, a mountain village famed for a shrine called Kamleshwar Mat. Beneath the peaceful appearance, a fear that a lion was terrorizing the villagers, that the boy should seek safety inside his shrine, but Nilkanth declined.
Please tell me, is your shrine safe and protected from death? Can your doors or walls really stop death?
No, the truth is, nothing can stop death.
If nothing can stop death, then why should one fear it? Running from danger will make us fearful, but facing it will make us fearless.
The priest was intrigued by the boy, but if he refused to come inside, there was little the priest could do. The boy was likely doomed.
He's a kitty cat.
Had already spent a long time moving through the forest, and he had grown comfortable with wild animals. Nilkanth faced the lion calmly, resolutely. Perhaps the lion sensed this lack of fear. He didn't attack at all. In the morning, the lion left and peace returned. The villagers were greatly relieved, and they urged the boy to stay in Shripur. What they needed, Nilkanth explained, was not him, but inner strength to rise above fear, the great fear of death and the small fears that disturb daily life. In such villages and towns, a sea of faces greeted Nilkanth. Faces of a nation that remains today one of the world's most diverse. With every shade of skin, every expression of human aspiration, and every way of life. Some of the earliest democratic traditions arose in India, rooted in the teachings of the Vedas, that all people can live together, that there can be unity in diversity. Today, India is home to 1 billion people of different religions, traditions, and backgrounds. It is the only country where 18 separate languages have arisen, each with a different lettering and more than 1,600 dialects. To Neelkanth, however, the greatest meanings were not expressed in words, but in the unspoken language of reverence for all life. In November of 1792, as winter approached, Nilkanth reached the town of Badrinath in the Himalayas. The place would soon be engulfed in snow, and the entire village was about to leave for the warmer plains below. The temple priest invited Nilkanth to join them. But the boy said he was following the ancient yogic tradition of entering the Himalayas to meditate on life. The priest warned him that he would freeze in the mountain cold, that he would never return alive. Worried for the boy's life, the priest asked, how will he find his way? And with no warm clothing, how will he ever survive? Nilkanth replied,
Faith. Faith shall help me survive, and faith shall find my way.
Completely alone, Nilkanth entered one of Earth's harshest places at its deadliest season. Before him in the Himalayas loomed 29 of the 30 highest peaks in the world, including the great Mount Everest, more than 29,000 feet high. Yet, great yogis of India have learned to survive the fierce cold here. Scientific research at Harvard and elsewhere has documented that advanced forms of meditation and yoga can alter the rate of metabolism and regulate body temperature, making yogis less vulnerable to extreme conditions that could be fatal to ordinary people. For months, Nilkanth heard no human voice. As winter descended, he had only the powers of yoga to sustain him. Nilkanth crossed treacherous mountain passes to behold the most sacred peak of the Hindus, Mount Kailash. He walked onto the shores of Mount Sarovar, one of the highest lakes on Earth at 15,000 feet, and the source of India's 4 great rivers. In the Annapurna range, Nilkanth crossed the deepest gorge on Earth, cut 22,000 feet deep by the river Kali Gandaki. High in the mountains, Nilkanth reached Muktinath, an ancient temple of Lord Vishnu. 108 water spouts encircle it, representing 108 Hindu names for God. Nilkanth's physical journey was always strengthened by a journey within. Daily yoga and meditation were a vital part of his life, and remained so as he grew older. They helped him gain insights into himself, into nature, and into all that exists. After 4 years in the Himalayas, Nilkanth walked eastward to share his knowledge with others. Crowds gathered in temple towns to seek his wisdom. And Nilkanth, in turn, sought to understand life and philosophies in each region by visiting many holy places along the way. No other nation has more temples, monuments, and palaces than India. Across the ages, an architecture developed that created spectacular buildings. Engineered of massive stone pillars and domes that will last thousands of years, they combine enormous strength and delicate beauty. Exquisite artwork, designed according to ancient Indian books of sculpture, has been hand-carved by countless craftsmen over the ages. The entire countryside is adorned with elaborate and elegant monuments, with palaces and impregnable fortresses of stone. With structures born of many faiths, India is a tapestry of temples, churches, mosques, and pagodas. Over millennia, diverse traditions of art have flourished together, creating a mosaic of beauty perhaps unequaled in any other land. Among India's architectural marvels are the temples of Khajuraho, built before the 13th century, featuring a beautiful combination of thousands of sculptures, designs, space, and void. The Taj Mahal, called one of the 7 wonders of the world and widely considered the most perfectly proportioned monument on earth. The Stupa of Sanchi, built more than 2,000 years ago to honor Buddha, who was born in India. It is one of the most important Buddhist sites. Amritsar, a priceless temple completely covered in gold. And the marble of Kailas, the world's largest monolithic monument, which took 150 years to carve from a hill of solid stone. Beyond temples and shrines, Nilkanth also crossed the rainforests of Assam in the northeast. As usual, he slept undisturbed in yogic. He continued across the wilds of the Sundarbans at the mouth of the Ganges. Nearly 5 years to the day of leaving home, Nilkanth reached Jagannath Puri in eastern India. Here, the regional king, Mukundeva, met Neelkanth and invited him to the festival of chariots, Rath Yatra. The massive crowds and gigantic chariots of Jagannath Puri gave birth to the English word juggernaut. Festivals in India are expressions of spiritual joy, sometimes conveyed through the chanting of Sanskrit mantras. The new year is marked by Annakut, the festival of food, an offering of thousands of vegetarian dishes. Diwali, the festival of light, commemorates the triumph of good over evil, of light over darkness. The whole of India seems filled with lamps, firecrackers, and happiness. The festival of colours, called Holi, is an opportunity to express joy and drench a friend by throwing coloured water or powder. In India, a graceful gesture, a grand festival, or the majestic gate of a temple is an expression of devotion. In the south, Nilkanth entered the famed temple of Rameshwaram, built in the 12th century with one of the world's longest stone corridors at nearly a mile. His travels had shown him that India's people were suffering because of cultural divisions. He encouraged all he encountered to overcome the differences that divided them and to live in harmony. For the next 2 years, Nilkanth traveled around the southern tip of India, a region famed as the birthplace of Indian classical dance and music. Dancers spend decades mastering Bharatnatyam, in which every slight gesture of the head, eyes, neck, hands and body is charged with meaning. It is an art performed continuously for 2,000 years and honored in sculptures carved on the walls of ancient shrines. From the temple towns of South India, Nilkanth traveled to the backwaters of Kerala. Throughout his journey, Neelkanth not only observed his country, but took every opportunity to serve his countrymen. At the end of the 7th year of his journey, he entered Gujarat in western India and arrived at the village of Lodge. Even today, villages like those in Lodge still comprise 80% of India's population. They live unhurried, peaceful lives. They recognize that this young yogi had insights beyond his 18 years and asked Neelkanth to visit Swami Ramananda, the most revered guru of the region. The date was July 21st, 1799. The Swami was away, but his disciple gently insisted that Neelkanth await his return. As he did so, Neelkanth shared his knowledge of the disciplines of yoga, which he had mastered by the age of 14. He sought no special treatment and quietly shouldered the same work as everyone else. People wondered what might happen when this special yogi met the master. When the two finally met, Neelkanth's life was forever changed. Ramananji had waited years for the arrival of his successor. Upon meeting the young yogi, he realized that Neelkanth was the one, and he urged him to become the new leader. Neelkanth was hesitant. He preferred the silence of the mountains, the freedom of nature. But Ramananji tried to convince him to stay in society and to help revive the values of life. As he listened, Nilkanth realized that this was the spiritual home he had sought for so long. Nilkanth had walked for 7 years and nearly 8,000 miles, inspiring and guiding countless people along the way. Now, at last, his journey would stop. But the story of his epic journey and the lessons of his faith, friendship, and fearlessness would endure. More than 200 years later, his life is still a source of inspiration. Neelkanth grew up to be known as Swami Narayan, a great reformer of India, who ushered in rays of hope. He worked tirelessly to dispel the clouds of violent superstitions and social divisions, to create a climate of peace, equality, and unity. He helped revive the timeless mysticism of India, a land where the quest continues to understand the great secrets of life beyond our material world. Where devoted souls sacrifice all in spiritual odysseys to reveal the most important truths of life. Perhaps the greatest truth India can illuminate for the billions who live on this planet is the cherished belief that there can be unity in diversity, that we share the same sky, walk the same earth, breathe the same air, that we are a single human family. This is the essence of mystic India.
Oh, autoplay. Well, thank you for watching, everyone. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie night. Well, thank you, dear Sky Guardian, for recommending that we watch that together. Very inspiring. So that is Mystic India, an incredible journey of inspiration. Jai Swami Narayan. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for the paper crane you sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And dear Savlin, thank you for your quintet of finger hearts. Radhe Radhe. And dear Tatvamasi, thank you for your trio of roses. Hare Krishna. Good night, dear Maniham. This will be the end of our Sangha, so thank you all for joining. The recording of this live stream will be uploaded on my YouTube channel, Yamsox Lives, as well as the clips of the readings that we do and the meditations and the show and tells. So if any of that interests you, I hope you find it to your liking there. This was the meditation, dear G. The movie night meditation. May you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, your afternoon, your night, your morning. Whatever time it may be for you, may this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to the light, from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Thank you to my lovely moderators for helping keep the peace. And if anyone ever has any ideas on how to make this space more inclusive, please hold me accountable to that so I can be a better host next time. And thank you, dear Tatvamasi, for your trio of roses. Om Haum Jum Sahanam Shivaya. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.